Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In War of the Visions and Global, we're in the middle of the return of Final Fantasy Tactics, the most anticipated event since the last appearance of Final Fantasy Tactics. So I thought it would be the perfect time to look at a launch MR unit. But I'm very interested in the potential of Inori / prayer / grace, so I went ahead and I finished her the other day. And I guess now is as good a moment as any to stress that there really are no such thing as free-to-play units. The closest things are the handout units, like Mont, Tyrrell, people like that, but they still cost rainbow shards. And if you've ever maxed a non-handout MR, you know it's a surprisingly big job. You need as many shards for Limit Break 4 and 5 as a UR, and the total cost for shards if you go from 0 to 500 is 15,000 Vision Ore. That's quite a chunk of change. There might be people now working on both Mustadio and like Agrius in the current Final Fantasy Tactics collaboration, and maybe they thought it would be like easy and doable because Mustadio is only an MR. But I bet they're discovering it's more difficult and more expensive than they anticipated. And so MR and lower rarity units are really more for fun, or for fans, or for the Trust Masters. But there are a few that rise above and can be used legitimately in place of a UR. They are usually support units since MR attackers don't have the attack and magic value to really make an impact in PvP, where if your damage is not high enough, your chances of winning go down a lot. But one launch MR that really stands out here is Inori / prayer / grace. And I've spoken about her name translation in my translation rant video, but I'll add one thing here. I got a lot of comments on that video saying that the translators probably didn't go with prayer, the literal translation, because it was too religious, and like my mind was blown at that. What is more religious, and specifically Christian, than the notion of grace? The entire point of doing Christianity is to get grace so you can go to heaven. And in fact, the means through which you get grace is one of the main differences between denominations of Christianity. There's nothing more religious than grace in my mind. And why am I the one that has to explain this to everyone? I'm not even religious. If the translator's only understanding of grace is for the prayer that you say before eating, and that they thought they were dodging a religious bullet, they better get back to Sunday school. And then during the maintenance that we had yesterday, I put up a bunch of posts about international translations of different characters' names. And it might be fun to put those together and like make a translation rant part 2 video. Let me know if you'd be interested to see that. But anyway, Inori here is a standout launch MR because she is a support healer unit that can kind of stand shoulder to shoulder with the UR equivalents, which at this point is really just Ayaka. In JP there was the recent release of Rosa, and people were calling her the Ayaka replacement. But to be honest, Inori is still a better healer than Rosa. And so Ayaka's position is still unchallenged. Rosa can do a variety of things, which is where her value comes from. But as a healer, she just does the basics. Inori is the better healer. And then, support MRs are a little bit hard to recommend, especially if they are one-trick ponies. But Inori does so many different things. I can recommend her more than most. But that being said, I don't know if I can recommend her to beginners or casual players. Because even compared to other healers, she has very low HP, barely 1,000. If you don't care about her fragility and you're willing to work around that, that's fine. You can still get pretty good basic use out of her. But if you take advantage of her strengths, she goes into overdrive and kind of becomes a different unit. But before we get into the advanced way of using her, let's look at her Trustmaster, jobs, and abilities. And Trustmaster is a staff. It has decent magic, better than Yashutara's, but the real reason to use it is for the bonus status effect, which is Don't Act. This is maybe the best status effect in the game, but unfortunately it can only go off with normal attacks. And so when I first saw this, I was like, well, that's never going to happen, because mages aren't going to do normal attacks. But then I remembered Kitufe, who wants to get close and wants to use her normal attacks, especially since they scale off her magic and do good damage. And so this staff on Kitufe is really interesting to consider. And then here I'll say that bonus status effects on weapons have a kind of a low chance of going off, around like 20%. but still, it's something to keep in mind. And next time I use Kitafe heavily, I'll try out this Trustmaster on her. But for jobs, she has White Mage, Green Mage, and Lancer. Main job, White Mage is terrific. She gets all the basics, but also all the top tier stuff like Full Life, Curaga, Esuna, and Holy. And those are all in her main job, which is pretty important. Green Mage for her is super interesting, because among other things, she gets Bar Light and Bar Lytra, which I read as Bar Holy. So you can pair her with dark attackers, many of which are paper thin and rely on evade, and are weak to Holy. But yeah, I really like green mages in this game. I think they're underrated, and it works really well with Inori's main job. And then finally she has Lancer, which I don't really know if it benefits her in any way. Her attack is low, so the physical attacks won't do much. And then neither the support nor reaction skills really do much for her. But let's go to her ability board. Let's get into detail. Main job, White Mage. Cure, Esuna, Full Life, Curaga, Holy, and Regen. So yeah, those are all the things that you want. And then Holy, of course, this is one of the best attacks in the game. I don't know if you can expect top tier damage from this. I don't know if you're going to be one-punching a lot of like high-level Vinetas or Super Sterns, but still, very nice option for damage. And then if we look at the White Mage sub-job, it's kind of not necessary, but Protect, Raise, Shell, Curada, and Cura. I think if you really want the Protect or Shell, maybe you want to use this. Also, maybe if you expect that you're going to be raising a lot, maybe you want to use the sub-job. A raise you can only use once per battle. But the regular raise you can use twice, so yeah, that might be something to consider. But I really think that 95% of the time you're going to want to use Green Mage. And we'll go skill by skill here. First is Ruin. This is a non-elemental magic attack. She'll probably use Holy more often because that will do more damage. But if it's a long battle and you run out of uses of Holy, you can fall back on this. Or maybe if there's somebody strong to light or something, maybe the non-elemental damage will do better. And then here she has De-Protect and De-Shell. Those are spirit or defense breaks, and those are still pretty rare in the game. You see lots of attack or magic breaks, but not so much the defense and spirit. So this can really help out your guys, especially if you're pairing her with attackers. And then here, I think this is called Vitalize in Global, but this is like a haste ability. So she's got a little bit of a time mage to her too. This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying that she can do lots of stuff. And then here, Bar Light, and then Bar Lytra, where you can give light resistance to a number of guys at once. So yeah, maybe pair her with Veneta or Super Stern or people like that. Alright, and then finally is the Lancer sub-job. Nighthawk, we all know that one. Stuck Shadow, which I like, but not great for her. Here's an attack and critical self-buff. Burst Slash. This is piercing and will knock the guys back. Maybe that could be good for utility. Here's the one skill that's kind of interesting for her. This is Blue Passion, and this is an AP drain. Maybe you can use this in high-level PvE bosses. If you can get rid of the AP from the boss, they can't do as much. Maybe this could be helpful in PvP as well. And then another medium-range piercing attack. So yeah, really, I think Blue Passion is kind of the only interesting skill from Lancer. So yeah, again, 95% of the time, main job White Mage, sub-job Green Mage, and then I think that'll be the best setup for her. And then for support abilities, I think there's only two that you also want to use. But here, this one will raise critical rate, don't need that. This one will raise pierce damage, also don't need that. This one you might need once in a while. This is protection from doom. It depends on the stage that you're going to. But that means that you're pretty much going to be stuck with these other two most of the time. This one will give you break, resist, and then also magic resistance up. And then that break resist, usually it's not that much of a factor, but especially if you're going to take her to Veneta, who has defense breaks, this can come in handy. And then Emerald Echo, this will raise the effect of spells that you cast, like Protect or Vitalize, by 1 turn, so this is good for her as well. And then reaction abilities, again, Lancer's not that great. She gets a counter thrust, and it doesn't drain like the Dragoon one, unfortunately. And then here's a Dispel counter. This could be interesting against people that buff themselves a lot, but I usually have Regenerator. And then this is great for a tower as well, so you can save uses of Cure. So yeah, as far as abilities, she's kind of almost set all the time. Then Master ability here, magic up 20%, and then all attack resistances up 10. Okay, so that was a look at her jobs and abilities. Next, let's look at her defining characteristic, and those are her resistances. She is part of the Snow White Guard, along with Sasayaki and Tsubuyaki, so she has low HP but high resistances. And I like messing around with resistances and going for like 1 damage builds, and that is definitely possible with Inori as well. So you could potentially use her as a tank. I go into detail about this in my Sasayaki review and my 1 damage build videos. But if you can set up your unit to have very high resistance, maybe 90% or higher, you can hunt for PvP opponents with those type of attackers and just shut them down. This is not a technique available to new players because you need to work on a lot of equipment and espers and vision cards to raise a specific resistance, which is one reason why I don't recommend Inori to new or casual players. And I'm really looking forward to the release of Saadari. Hopefully he plays the same, low HP, high resistances. If he were a very top tier level magic attacker, that would be my dream come true. But anyway, getting back to Inori, if we equip that 1 resistance up ability, she'll have 35% resistance to all physical attack types, and then magic 60%. Okay, while you weren't looking, I raised the level of my magic resistance support ability, so now she's at 62. And then let's equip her real quick. Let's see how high we can get her magic resistance. So let's give her the Smart Coat +5, that will be 8 there. And then let's give her the Marlborough Esper, that will give her 15. And then here, this is the Fenrir Vision card. This is not available yet in Global, but you can level it up. It will give you magic resistance to your entire party. Mine will give 12 here. So let's check. And 97% magic resistance. And so actually, you could use her as a magic tank, and then you could move this Fenrir off onto another character because it's a party ability, and then you could give her the Vow of Love Vision card. The utility of Vow of Love is not as good as it used to be because of the changes to hate, but you know, those first 5 hate points, that could be helpful to draw the first few attacks to her, and if they're all magic, they're going to do next to nothing. Okay, but looking at her physical resistances, with slash stuff, you can get her over 100% there as well, along with some future equipment there. Pierce, I think you can get up to about 90%. Strike, maybe 60-ish. Projectile, I also believe you can get over 100%, but that will require a plus platinum robe. And if your setup is good enough that you can get your slash or projectile resistance over 100, you could take off the Snow White card and then give her the Vow of Love, still have maybe over 90% resistance, and then still have a little bit of hate for tanking those types of attacks. And so yeah, crazy tankiness is possible with Inori, but you do need to work towards it. And then if you have been working on building up Sasayaki, you kind of have to keep working because Inori and Sasayaki, they equip different stuff. Sasayaki is heavy armor and helms, Inori is light armor and hats. One advantage that Inori does have is that she can use Valide's Trustmaster. This will give you 5 to all the physical resistances. And then also, since Thancred and Inori, they both equip the same stuff, if you are wild and crazy about resistances like I am, you can be building up basically 2 characters at once, going for like hats and light armors. Okay, to end this video, let's do Inori one-on-one against a couple characters. We'll go against Vineta first. And then I've built Inori here to have 80% slash resistance, and then 5% dark resistance, which is more than the negative that she usually has. And then the Vineta, just a typical Vineta, equip stuff, slash attack up, that kind of stuff. Okay, but we'll use Sasayaki's Trustmaster skill there. That will give her Sentinel for a turn. And then there, that is the defense break plus attack there, but only half the life away from Inori. And then Holy onto Vineta. Wasn't able to one-punch Vineta, but I feel like with like a weaker MR character like this, if you can two-punch a character, that's good enough. And then Kuraga there. And then there's that haste self-buff. But regen for her is nice just because her max HP is so low. Maybe percentage-wise. Okay, another Kuraga on herself. A Holy would definitely take down Vineta at this point, but yeah, her being a main job white mage, maybe she wants to heal more often. Okay, but there's another Holy, and goodbye Vineta. Alright, I don't know what that proves, I just wanted to show off kind of like the function of her green mage abilities, and then also the damage from her Holy, and then her slash resistance. Okay, next, let's take her against Mediana, and then here her magic resistance is about 95%. And I would like Inori to use Ruin, but I think Holy, again, is just going to be the better damage source, so that's why she's going to rely on that. Okay, Vitalize, that's the self-haste. And then here, since I can use the Smart Coat to get the magic resistance, I gave her the Trustmaster, her own Trustmaster. So let's see if she does like normal attacks, and then puts the Don't Act on Mediana. Okay, but low 3-digit damage from the Flare from Mediana. And then about 1,000 damage there onto Mediana with Holy. Not going to do as much damage against Vineta, of course, who has the element disadvantage. Okay, another Flare, and Regenerator. Alright, and then here we're going to cast D-Shell. This is the Spirit Break on Mediana. So she'll do less damage with her spells. And her magic defense should also go down. Or does it go up? Anyway, we're going to see more damage here. Okay, again, almost no damage there. And here's Holy. Okay, a little bit more damage there than the 900 that we saw from before. Okay, Spirit Break again here. Holy again here, and there goes Mediana. Again, there to show off the green mage skills, and then also what a 95% attack resistance can do. Okay, so that was a look at Inori, a very notable launch MR unit. That'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.